Good evening, everybody. It's me. I am here as a floating head tonight. Special occasion, I guess. Or I just didn't want to change out of my shirt before the stream tonight, which, by the way, that stream starts in about half an hour. It's going to be on my channel and the Hawks Nest channel. It's going to be streamed to both. So you can come by either one or both. And we're going to talk about draft prospects for the upcoming 2023 college football season. It's obviously a Seahawks-centric show, but I think that fans of any team can benefit from what we're going to talk about tonight. So, should be about half an hour from the upload of this video. Going to be a probably couple hour show, 7 o'clock Pacific. Hope to see you there. All right, so earlier today, a couple hours ago, I made the video about the receiver's health because that was kind of the big thing, right? Because JSN was the new thing, and everybody wanted to know what was up with JSN, so I wanted to hammer that. But there was some other news that came out of the Pete Carroll press conference today, a little bit later, after the receiver stuff got cleared. So I want to talk about some of the other things that Carroll said about health because we actually got some really good news here. So Jamal Adams is just about ready to come back. Pete Carroll says, per many sources on Twitter, including right here, we got Mike Dugar, could be back tomorrow. And if he's not back tomorrow, then it's expected that he'll be back on the next day. So tomorrow or the next day, Jamal Adams is back on the field. Now, he's not going to be practicing immediately, and I wouldn't necessarily expect him to start practicing until maybe next week after the final preseason game. I mean, if you think about how long it took for Brooks to go from PUP to off the PUP participating in walkthroughs to practicing at full speed, you would expect Jamal Adams to take at least another week where he's just doing walkthroughs and he's not really at football speed yet. But the fact that he's off the PUP at this point is great news, and I think you got to give him at least a chance to be ready to go for week one at this point. I don't know if it's likely. I don't know if I would bet on it, but it's a possibility that he is ready to go week one against the Rams in Seattle. So, awesome news there. I've said it many times, and I'll continue to say it. I believe that Jamal Adams is a big part of this defense being elite this year, or even really good, or let's above average. You know, if we want to have an above average or better defense this year, I think a lot of it runs through Jamal Adams. So I'm really hoping he's healthy this year. Great news to hear he's just about to come off the PUP. That's the big takeaway in the positives from what Carroll had to say earlier today. Wasn't the only thing he said, however, and more good news here. Jordan Brooks practiced in full today, meaning it was not just walkthroughs, it was not just individual stuff. No, he worked out with the team, and Pete Carroll thinks he will be ready to play against the Rams. Again, that doesn't mean he will, but this is a step in the right direction. You can see how Brooks is just a little bit ahead of Adams in the rehab, but it seems like they're both on very similar tracks. So it took Brooks a little while to go from PUP to walkthroughs to full practice, and now it's going to take a little while for him to get ready to play. Adams is right behind him on that little conveyor belt, I guess you could call it. So great stuff here. I mean, I'll say it before I'll say it again. I know he's better than John Radigan, especially the John Radigan I've seen so far in preseason. I know he's better than BBK with the way BBK is right now. So having Brooks able to play football is a benefit to this team, even if he's not as good as Devin Bush. Even if he wasn't as good as Vi Jones, and that may not matter at this point because Vi Jones seems to have a legitimate injury that might limit his ability to play football at all this year, for all we know. I think that you have to. I think that you have to, at the very least, admit that he is better than the other guys who could make the roster at inside linebacker over him. So great news here, and I'm excited to see what Jordan Brooks can do when the season starts. Again, I don't know what his role will be, but I know it'll be something. We got a little bit more from Carroll about some of the injuries on some of the young players. Mike Morris had a procedure on his shoulder. It's an old shoulder injury that he's dealt with before, per this tweet from Crabtree. And Cam Young is still recovering from his calf strain. So those are your that was a fourth round pick and a fifth round pick. Neither is playing this week in Green Bay. So we've got some little things we're working through here with some of these young guys. But it seems to me that the big one, well, relatively speaking, the big one is Mike Morris. He seems to be the guy who's actually in danger of missing non-trivial time. And he's already missed a pretty decent amount of time so far in this preseason and camp, so he's behind the eight ball. And obviously we weren't going to expect a ton out of Mike Morris in 2023, but we were expecting something, so this definitely puts him at a disadvantage. So that's unfortunate, but it seems like everybody else is in a pretty decent state right now. Obviously, you would prefer they're completely healthy, but we have a real chance to basically be loaded up by game 1 or game 2 for the season. And in a sport like this, that's about all you can ask for. Corbin Smith has this tweet here, talking about, well, first JSN should be back early this season, if not the opener. Witherspoon, a lot of people asking for updates on Witherspoon. We got an update from Corbin on Witherspoon here. Did his walkthrough today, progressing nicely. Expected to be back in pads next week. If he's back in pads next week, he should be able to play week 1. Again, that doesn't mean he will, but it means that he could. That's the big thing. Kenny McIntosh, Cam Young, and Oluwatimi are expected to, at the very least, have a chance to be available for the season opener. So, doesn't seem like there's going to be any big problems there. Now, don't get me wrong. They're rookies. They're all rookies. Who knows if they're going to be really ready to play, given that they missed so much of the offseason work. But physically, it seems like they're very close. And I'm probably going to have to make another video about this tomorrow, but if you, as a football team, you kind of have to choose one of two evils. Either you have a lot of minor injuries or you have a few major injuries. Sometimes you have both, by the way. Sometimes you have a few major injuries and then a bunch of minor injuries on top of it. Right now, we are dealing with the bunch of minor injuries variant, and that's, I think that's preferable. I'll probably talk more about this in a future day, but I'd much rather be dealing with this than dealing with what Denver's already dealing with some of their injuries. I'd rather be dealing with this than what, what's the other team that's got all... Tip of my tongue, can't think of it right now, but I think you guys know what I'm getting at here. This is much preferable to anything else short of just having a really clean bill of health all around, which very rarely happens because this is a violent sport. But Corbin Smith also says that Morris is the big concern right now, and he later theorizes that he may go on the early season injured reserve, which apparently now is 4 games. So if he goes on the injured reserve list before the season starts, that's 4 games. So sounds like he thinks that may happen, and that would be the one guy who actually misses significant time. But it sounds like just about everybody else is either not going to miss any games or just going to miss 1 game. That's pretty good. That's about as good as we could have hoped for. Of course, in me saying that, I'm not including a guy like Vi Jones, who sounds like he may have a more serious injury, or Derek Young. Derek Young may also be in that more serious camp. Seems like a lot of these guys are at least physically almost there. All right, I will see you guys in the stream tonight, hopefully. If not, I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks, and most of the news is good. Most of the injury news is good. Let's hang our hat on that for now.